your feet. I'm going to show you an exercise that you can use to warm up. But since I don't have my feet in the shot, I'm going to have my hands represent my feet right now. Here, I'll do this. How about that? That'll help. So the right foot, if you're naturally right-handed, and even if you're not, I recommend, because there's benefits to having, you know, some people started out setting up the drum set left-handed. The problem is you go to a gig to sit in and the drum set's set up opposite of what you want. So assuming that the snare drum's here, the hi-hat's here, the bass drum is down here on the right side, this is going to be working your bass pedal. This is going to be working your hi-hat. I hope I can do this now. But when you're playing these exercises and you're counting, I'm going to want you to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not super heavy, but just tap that foot. 2, 3, 4. And these are going to help with coordination. I hear the word independence all the time, and that's not really accurate. You're coordinating your limbs. You're not trying to get one to do some thinking that the other one is doing. They're all locked in. Eventually it's music. You know, that's like saying the musicians in a band are operating independently. They're working together, and so are your limbs going to be working together. So with this foot, this is easy. And then here is the best thing I ever learned about my feet, and it's the hi-hat. And so while this is going 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. I messed that up. You want this toe coming down on 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope that makes sense. But just to describe it, your right foot is tapping on all the quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and your other foot is rocking. When you do get pedals, you're going to want your feet flat on the pedals. I see guys with their toes up high. I was there at one point. Again, you're creating tension in your calf and your quadricep that is completely unnecessary. If your pedals are set to the same angle and your feet are resting on the pedals, you're just going to be more relaxed. And it's going to help your brain, just like having your sticks matched. Now to create this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is going to be opening and closing your hi-hat, opening it on 1 and 3, closing it on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to do that in all your exercises. So and I looked for my stick control. I didn't have it, but stick control, I want to say it starts out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll see that exercise again with accents later in the book. But all you're going to be thinking about there is using a metronome, setting it nice and slow, because holding a slow tempo is sometimes even harder. As a singer, maybe you found this, that the drummer's having trouble holding that slow tempo down during the ballad. And the other thing, and this is true of anybody who's ever learned an instrument, I'm sure you ran into this piano, you learn it slow, it makes it so much easier to play fast. So whatever tempo I was at right there, I don't know, maybe, 80 quarter notes a minute or something, but you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And you want to make them sound the same. And then you want to see if you can get it down to a whisper. My arms are just hanging at my side. My elbows are bent at pretty much a 90-degree angle. And my wrists are doing all the work. And my fingers are there just to control that stick. And I'm getting a little bounce too, because you're going to want that bounce working for you later on when you play all these exercises. The other thing is, and I can't remember because I didn't find my stick control for you, but they may also have you play the same exercise going 1, 2, starting with the left, right? And that's important. All the exercises you can do, that Ted Reed book, what page is it, 34? I don't have that book in front of me either, but it's I have that little page, I think that's 34, memorized because there's so much you can do with that book. You can just, I used to swing that dang, 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 with the hi-hat on 2 and 4, dang, 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 and feathering that bass drum, boom, 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 dang, 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 dang. So when you get a kit, and we'll talk about that too, when you get a kit, you can use that TED Reed book so many different ways. I'm going to recommend a book for you after you've gone through and read down and played all those TED Reed exercises, starting with your right hand, starting with your left hand. There's a book, and it is just, here's all you need. It's the name Alan Dawson, Alandawson. You may have heard of him. Very good drummer, played with a lot of cats. He was up in New England, and he was Tony Williams' teacher. So Tony Williams went straight from Alan Dawson's studio to Miles Davis' band at age 17. And Tony had the chops to hang with, you know, some pretty serious cats who were all a little bit older and more advanced musically, but that was a pretty good finishing school for Tony. And the Alan Dawson method, this Alan Dawson book, it's a nice thick book, there's a picture of Alan on the cover. I can't think of the author right now, but it's very well put together. There's excellent exercises. He uses the TED Reed book 20 different ways. You know, there's a exercise where you're using Roy Haynes chops, like this cross stick. That's another way to get a rim shot. And Roy is the master of that press roll, or that buzz roll. But anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I will talk a minute about a kit because I know every drummer is thinking about that kit. And invest in a good bass drum pedal. They're not cheap, but nowadays you're probably going to be able to find stuff used right now. There's a lot of musicians selling their stuff. A bass drum takes up a lot of room. You know, you don't need a big one. If your focus is on jazz, I have a little 16-inch bass drum. That's the smallest I've ever seen anybody play. Like Billy Higgins would play a 16. Most of the bebop cats, like, you know, Art Blakey and Elvin and all those guys used the 18-inch. This is what we're talking about diameter. Like a snare drum is 14-inch. So, you know, their bass drum wasn't that much bigger, but it's still a big thing. It's a big thing in your house. It takes up a lot of room. You know, the fact is, it's just, you know, one of the necessary evils of being a drummer. So a bass drum, a snare drum with a stand, a good foot pedal, also a good hi-hat stand. You don't want something that's squeaky or rattly or moving around. And then, you know, again, you're going to have to buy cymbals. Probably buying them secondhand is the best thing, but a good pair of hi-hats, probably 14-inch hi-hats. There's all kinds of crazy stuff now with holes drilled in them and different, it's stupid because hi-hats are primarily played closed, so they're muting, and I don't know what big difference the holes make or anything, but just a pair of, you know, find some drummer who had to have hi-hats with holes drilled in the bottom and he's selling his good set up top. Usually they're sold together. And then one cymbal, and I would recommend getting a 20-inch ride cymbal. That's kind of another big, you know, thing to have around. And you need one stand for that. And forget about tom-toms and all that other stuff because you're going to be working on exercises with those pieces. It's 4 pieces. You got 4 limbs, you got 4 pieces, you got a hi-hat, you can go to the cymbal, you're going to be doing, you know, going back and forth a lot, learning a lot of grooves, like so, and you'll have everything you need there for, believe me, a whole year of studying. And you've seen it, a lot of cats, that's all they bring to the gig. Because really, for most music, that's all you need. Everything else is just, you know, for accents and fills and, in many cases, overplaying. Okay, I'm trying to keep this under 25 minutes. We still have a little bit to go. Let's see, I've got my little list of things here, and you can write me back if you have any questions. But stick control, the George Lawrence Stone book, goes from that to pretty soon you're going to get to the single stroke roll. Relaxed breathing, toes aren't curled up. 1, 2, 3, 4. My feet are going right now. You can't see it. Maybe you can see my knees bouncing. And then you want to make sure you get real quiet too. And you can always have that metronome going, or put on some music that you like that has that same tempo, and listen to a tune that you like, and play along with that music. But just do this, and you could watch a music video on TV. That can get dreadfully boring. So I'm going to give you an exercise right now. These stickings are in the George Lawrence Stone book, and they are the 3 most commonly used rolls, fills, rudiments, and it's the